Welcome, everyone, to the 189th episode of the Jewish Drinking Show. I'm your host, Rabbi Drew Kaplan, and I'm excited to welcome first-time guest of the show, David Kedson. Welcome, David Kedson.
Hi, Drew. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For those less familiar with David Kedson, he graduated from Duke University and the University of Pennsylvania Law School, after which he bounced around various occupations: litigation attorney, entrepreneur, CEO, computer programmer, independent stock trader, and a stay-at-home parent, which, as he describes, was by far the most challenging and the most rewarding of all of those before he settled on being a writer, which brings us to why we're here today. He has written 6 published mysteries and thrillers, not why we're here today, mostly under the name DK Kedson, along with his cocktail recipe book, The 10 Plagues of Cocktails. In the cocktail world, he is currently vying to be a contestant, having submitted both a cocktail and a mocktail on a new TV reality show called Recipe Philly. So once again, David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So, for those who are aware of the Jewish calendar, I don't think it's too early at this point. We're just counting down the days and the weeks to Passover. It's here. It's upon us. It's arriving very imminently. Hopefully, people are clearing out their chametz. So, the 10 plagues of cocktails that he has composed is about, well, so this is going to offer us some fun possibilities, I believe. But I'm gonna share what David shared in the book, which is he put together. I believe this is pre-sedering, right? You did some pre-sedering cocktails.
That's the way we do it at my house, my seder. Yeah,
Right.
we
So
we have
yeah.
we have everyone shows up about an hour or two before the actual sit down seder, and we put out a table with all 10 plagues on it.
Nice. So it is funny because I when I read it initially, I thought it was actually each of these, and they're, when you've made them for the family seder, they're more like a shot each. They're like a mixture.
Yeah, we put them in. It's about an ounce of drink in each cup.
Mm-hmm.
The little plastic cups that we use.
Yeah. So I actually initially thought, and maybe I didn't carefully read. Initially, I thought, oh, this is really clever. Like during the Magi part of the Passover Seder, you could do dam, tzvara, kinim, and like obviously, people are dripping out wine, but you could drip out wine and take a shot, which I think would be a really be making for a really interesting rest of the Magi portion for sure. But you had as a pre-Seder activity, which I think works much better.
You could do it either way, I suppose.
Yeah. And of course, listeners can check out. We did an episode. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I can link it in the show notes about the questionability about drinking between the first and second cups. And I will just say for listeners as a quick note, but the Mishnah states very clearly you can drink between the first and second cups. That's not a problem. But later rabbis have problems because they're worried you might get drunk during the Seder, and that's a whole separate issue. But even, so whether or not one feels that they're okay or not drinking during the Magi portion, which I honestly would argue that having what you did, like just these shooters of cocktails, I think could make for a much livelier Magi for sure. Like, oh man, those Svardea. Those lice. I think you can make it for, and definitely by the time you get to, Machas Bechoros, you get to the Kelly of the Firstborn, everybody's like, whoo, this is a great Seder. But I think even if someone wants to have it during the Seder, but not maybe then, maybe they could have it, once you have the matzah, you kick off the meal. And then you could maybe throughout, or even in between, like maybe between soup and the entree, or like different courses of the meal itself, you could use them as.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, one issue is how many people you have. We have about 40.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be really hard to orchestrate passing out the shots and the food at the same time for us with so many people.
Right. So there definitely is, but either way, I think whether one wants to have it as you do it, which is the pre-Seder style, whether during the actual 10 plagues or maybe during the meal, one thing I think is, and you really laid out in I thought, a really wise fashion, was to do everything, not only prepping it all way ahead of time, but, and this is an important tip that I think if people leave here without anything else, they should definitely take this one away, is not to do any of this where the food prep is taking place. Don't do this in the kitchen. Like, stay out of everybody's way.
Yeah, well, I like to stay married, so that was a key thing for me. So And in our house, we have a nice finished basement area where I can do the lab, what we call the lab, and make all the drinks down there. And
Yeah.
then we eat in a dining room, and then I have a living room or a library, I guess we call it, where it has a nice long table where I can set the drinks out. There's a picture of it in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have any, so for those people interested in checking out the book or even just trying some sort of cocktail style shooters, what advice do you have, even just in the preparation aspects?
Well, there's a lot of different parts of it. I mean, for me, and it's important to use fresh juice, for example.
Mm,
I mean, it's the easiest way to make sure your stuff is kosher, but it's also the tastes a lot better than processed juices.
hmm
So I make all the juices the day before to make sure that, and I keep them. We have two refrigerators, so I keep them in a refrigerator that doesn't have all the other stuff in it,
hmm
just to keep out of the way. But also, it makes it really a lot easier than you don't have to do that. So when you want to do everything you can in advance, and then just make the drinks right beforehand so that
Mm,
they're, you know, obviously to make 10 different drinks, it takes time. It's usually best if you have some helpers.
hmm
I don't have any helpers to actually make the drinks, but I have helpers that will pour the drinks out in the shot glasses for me.
mm,
And, it's like an assembly line. Some of my nieces and nephews, I'll make blood. I'll hand it to one of them, say, okay, go pour this, and then I'll start working on the next one on frogs. And, I just have a procession of, they go upstairs, they pour it, they come back down, we rinse out the shaker, we get on to the next, I have 4 or 5 shakers. So I only have to rinse out each one once. And
I was just about to ask that. So you just said you had other people pouring. So when you batch them up, how big of a container are you using to do the original batching?
usually for, one full shaker, which is
Mhm.
what is that? I don't know, 16 ounces. Is that I'm not sure what it is, but one full shaker usually is enough to pour out about 20 or 30 of the little shots.
Hmm.
And so that's about how many we put out there. We have 40 people, but not everyone partakes in every plague. So usually it's 20 or 30 shot glasses is enough. We pour them out. We have them all next to each other. We have labels that say which plague it is and what the drink is.
hmm
And we also have a more detailed list of what's in it and kosher ratings and whatnot,
hmm
that we put next to the table so people can look at that to decide which plagues they want to partake in.
Speaking of different kosher stuff, so you have, I think it turns out to be like a dozen different cocktails in the book, right? It,
Correct.
yeah. So even though there's one for every plague, I think you offer a couple of options or additional options.
For frogs,
Mhm.
this year, and in the book, we're having what I call the Froggy Challenge. So we have 3 very different frog drinks, and we're gonna have people vote on which one they like best.
Yeah.
So that's why there's 12.
Nice. So it is interesting because you put together this book for, I would say, like just general Jews, right? Is that a fair description?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then, you have your own tiering system of sort of more kosher and sort of less kosher. And this is something listeners don't know, but David, you and I, we had a conversation before this about especially finding products that are very specific to being certified as kosher for Passover. Can we share some of those
Sure,
cocktails? Okay, great.
sure.
So David here did the research. Not only are there's 10 to 12 cocktails you can find in this book that came out in 2025, but he also has different cocktails and very specific to even the products, the products of each of them.
For blood, um, is a drink I made up called the Blood Orange Blossom. It's roughly based on an old time drink called an orange blossom. But I changed some of the ingredients, and the key change I made was to use blood orange juice,
Hmm.
which is in season during Passover. And I don't know how familiar you are with blood oranges, but I love the juice. It's really delicious. In the book, the kosher ratings I did were really for kosher style Jews.
hmm
So in kosher style, it's a lot harder to find a kosher for Passover gin. So I rate this one a kosher rating of 3, where 1 is the most kosher and 4 is the least. But there are definitely at least 3 or 4 kosher for Passover gins you can buy or at least order. There are at least 2 kosher for Passover triple sets. We could not find a kosher for Passover bitters. So if you're trying to be strictly kosher, you're gonna have to skip the bitters, but it's only a couple of drops anyway. This drink, it comes out really a blood red color. We've been doing this several years at my house, and it's always one of the favorites, this blood orange blossom. The 3 drinks for frogs. One is the one that we started with. We've been using it for every year, which this is smoothie. This one is made in a blender with a bunch of fruits that you can see in the video. Plus, it uses a melon liqueur like Midori, but there's a manufacturer called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Danu, which is a melon liqueur and will work perfectly in this drink. If you can't find the melon liqueur, you can substitute a kosher for Passover banana liqueur. It'll change the flavor a little bit, but it's still good. The psychedelic frog, which is I did not make up. This is a drink. I've been searching, but I don't know who invented this drink. It's just served in bars, called a psychedelic frog. And what it is a series of different, it's got rum, coconut rum, and we'll come back to that in a second. It has other amaretto, again, the melon liqueur, and a blue curacao, which I'll have to spend a couple seconds talking about as well. The key thing here is I could not find a kosher for Passover rum, coconut rum. There are kosher for Passover rums, but not coconut rum. Mm-hmm. So the workaround here is to actually make your own coconut rum at home. So I have here, this is what it would look like. This is a mason jar. You pour in, what I use, the easiest way to do this is with sweetened coconut flakes, and then you pour in your rum. If you can't find kosher for Passover sweetened coconut flakes, you can use regular coconut flakes. And frankly, if you can't find those, you can just buy a coconut, which is definitely kosher. You cut it into chunks, and you can put that in here. You let it sit in the jar for a week or 2. You get really nice tasting coconut rum. If you just use coconut chunks, depends on how sweet or not sweet you want it. To make it taste like a regular coconut rum that you'd buy in a store, you would have to add simple syrup, which is a sugar and water combination. Mm-hmm. You use approximately, to make it taste like your standard store-bought coconut rum, you would use half the amount of simple syrup as you put rum in. Some people put less because they don't want it quite as sweet. Some people put none because they don't want all that sugar. But either way, no matter how you do it, it's gonna be very coconutty, and you can use that in this. And there's a couple other coconut rum drinks in here. You can do the same thing. The blue curacao is an orange liqueur that's made in the island of Curacao, and it's blue. There is a company called Signor and Company that makes a kosher blue curacao, and their website talks about how they clean it for Passover every year. I do not know for sure. I have not seen a bottle that has the kosher for Passover mark on it. They use Star, and I've seen Star K. I've not seen Star KP, so I'm not sure that you can do that. Alternatively, there is this stuff. Can you see this? That I found in a liquor store in Pennsylvania, which is non-alcoholic, but it's the blue from Blue Curacao. Although, again, this one is just kosher. It's not kosher for Passover, and I don't know if they make kosher for Passover, but if they do, this is an alternative if the Senior and Company is not. And the final alternative is you can just use regular triple sec, another orange liqueur. It's going to screw up the color of your drink a little bit. I mean, not screw it up. It just won't be the same color as it is in the book.
Yeah.
But it's going to taste the same.
I remember one of the first times I had a conversation with someone when they were interested in bringing me out, actually entirely based on this, the Jewish Drinking Show. They liked the content. They liked what they heard from me, and they wanted to bring me out. And during our conversation, they said, hey, we know you have a lot of really great content, but we saw somewhere that you do tastings also. I said, I do lead tastings, and I do texts and tastings. So I realized I did not do a good enough job, certainly on the show and probably in general, and letting people know, in addition to actually sharing really wonderful content about drinking and Jewish wisdom, history, tradition, literature, and more. But I also do tastings, and even better, marrying the two together, doing text and tasting. So if that's something that's of interest to your shul, organization, JCC, whatever it may be, feel free to get in contact with me at drew@jewishdrinking.com. So thank you for letting me break in and share that with you. And now back into the show.
The third frog drink in the book is something that I call the amphibian. Mm-hmm. This is one of the drinks that I'm entering in the for the reality show. It is a cucumber-based drink, but unlike most cucumber drinks you'll find in a bar, are going to be using cucumber water, or you're going to muddle the cucumber at the bottom of the shaker. What I do here is I actually make cucumber juice, pure, fresh cucumber juice. The way we do it, we put the chunk, we peel and chunk the cucumber, put it in a little blender. I use one of those bullet blenders.
Yeah.
You cover it with water, then you strain it. And so you get nice, pure, the color is beautiful, the flavor is beautiful, and it tastes like no cucumber drink you've ever had.
Wow.
If you're making this, if you can just use kosher and not kosher for Passover, I would use Hendrick's gin, which has cucumber in it. If you can't do that, then, or if you're doing it not Passover, if you want to make this drink, because it's definitely worth making, you could do it with the Hendrick's. If you are not, there are at least 3 or 4 kosher for Passover gins that I found that you can use. This drink also has elderflower liqueur, like a Saint Germain. There's a vendor called Massanez. Again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the name properly, but that makes a kosher for Passover elderflower liqueur. Vermin, which is often interpreted as lice. I like to call it vermin, which is I've seen in some translations, because it just makes more sense. The very next plague is flies. Why would somebody put lice and then flies? Or gnats, that's the other one. Lice or gnats, and then the next one flies. It's just not, a vengeful God would do better. So I use the interpretation vermin, and therefore I got out of insects and went to an old drink from the 1920s called the pink squirrel. Actually, it might be from the 1940s. I think pink squirrel is from the 1940s. I think it was invented in Wisconsin in the 1940s. And it's a drink that uses an almond liqueur and creme de coco and cream. So again, here's a reason why you might not want to do it during the meal, because you're eating meat at the meal and this has cream in it.
Yeah.
So if you do it long enough ahead, I'm not sure what that would be. You would know better than I, Rabbi.
True. Although those might actually, there's a possibility they might end up being parve and non-dairy.
Okay.
It's possible. I don't know what these particular products, but it's possible that they could be, especially for the kosher crowd, they could end up being parve.
Okay. So anyway, another thing is the original drink was pink because the almond liqueur they used, creme de noyau, which I guess was available in Wisconsin in the 1940s, but it's not available, at least in Philadelphia, in the 2020s. So what I do is I use amaretto, and again, there are at least 2 or 3 different kosher for Passover amarettos, and then I use a little bit of grenadine, which is a pomegranate syrup, and that will make it pink. Although, from a color standpoint, all the creme de cocos I found were all dark. They're chocolate liqueur. If you can find a white one, it makes the color is much nicer. If you use the dark one, it's going to be more of a brown squirrel than a pink squirrel. And then you don't even have to bother with the grenadine because the amaretto is brown already. For flies, we used to, and this recipe is also in the book, I used to make something called a buzzy margarita, or in the mocktail form, a no buzz margarita. Which is the other drink that I'm entering in the show, the mocktail version of that. And it was good and people liked it. But this year and in the book, I'm using an old drink from the 1920s called the bee's knees. Now, bees and flies, of course, are different species, but they have a lot of the same body parts, and I'm just sticking with it. So the only alcohol in the bee's knees is an old drink that uses gin,
Mm.
and then lemon juice, which again we make fresh,
Mhm.
and a honey syrup, which is basically just water and honey. You put it in the microwave for 10 seconds.
Mhm.
You can cook it on the stove too, but if you have a microwave that you're allowed to use during Passover, it literally is just 10 or 15 seconds at the most to
Hmm.
and the honey and the water mix up. And so the honey syrup, the lemon and the gin. Apparently, when they invented this, they used the honey syrup and the lemon to mask the taste of the gin from Prohibition, which was
Uh,
called bathtub gin generally, and apparently didn't taste very good. So that's why they invented this drink.
hmm.
Today, the gins taste better, but the drink is still pretty tasty in and of itself.
It's a classic. It's
Yeah,
delicious.
it is.
Also, I've only ever made simple syrup on the stovetop, so this is a new revelation to try the microwave for
Well,
me.
simple syrup with sugar
Yeah.
is more difficult. This is honey, and the honey mixes with the water that easily. I've never made simple
Oh.
syrup in the microwave.
Oh, so you're saying honey syrup, not simple syrup in the
The honey
microwave.
syrup, not the simple
Uh,
syrup. I mean, it could work, but I've never tried that. I
yeah.
usually make the simple syrup on the stove top as well. I
Okay.
think the sugar being granular is going to have a harder time mixing in the
Just
microwave.
yeah, dissolving. Yeah. Okay.
But
That is
but
a
for a
helpful
honey
note.
syrup, and the bee's knees is not the only drink in the world that comes with honey that has honey syrup as a recipe.
Yeah.
The the traditional recipe was to do it on the stovetop, but let me tell you, the microwave is perfect.
Hey there, I want to break in yet again. Although I asked for support in financial ways because it does cost some money to make the hosting happen and other aspects of Jewish drinking happen. So your financial support is definitely appreciated. And don't forget, you can go to jewishdrinking.com/donate. But also, another way of supporting the show and everything that Jewish Drinking does is also to tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If you like this content, if you like this show, maybe people you know also like it. So feel free to let them know, hey, I have this interesting episode I heard, or a few episodes, or whatever it is, or even a few clips. Feel free to share with your friends. All right. Thank you so much. Now back into the show.
Pestilence. We use a drink called the COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
which was a pretty pestilential thing. I call this one the latest strain because there was a drink called COVID-19 that came around during the pandemic, but this one is a little different because one of the things I've tried to do in the selection is make everything a different color just
Hmm.
to make it look prettier when you're setting it up.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's why the pink one matters, and this one is a bright blue color.
Oh,
This
wow.
drink,
Huh.
um, but again, you need blue curacao for this, which we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get the blue curacao, it's gonna be a clear drink, but it's still gonna taste pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We use coconut rum here, blue, and we use vanilla vodka. And again, it's a kosher for Passover vodkas, but I couldn't specifically find one that was a vanilla vodka
Mm-hmm.
kosher for Passover. Make it in a similar way that you make the coconut rum, mason jar, and you just put in a couple of vanilla beans. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they're long and thin.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
really bean pods are inside, but they're long green brown pods. They're maybe 4 to 6 inches long,
Yeah.
and you put them in the vodka and let it sit for a week. You can let it sit longer, but after 2 or certainly 3 weeks, the vanilla beans start becoming bitter, and you don't want that in your
Oof.
vanilla vodka.
Yeah.
So I would do that for probably a week would be best.
Hmm.
And when it's done, again, you have a nice flavor. If you want it sweet, you can add some simple syrup to it. But I think most vanilla vodkas aren't like coconut rums. They're not really sweet. So you really can just put the vanilla beans in the vodka, forget about it for a week, and then take the beans out. And
Hmm.
then you want to strain it to make sure that you didn't get any vanilla bean pods in your drink. This also has a little bit of fresh pineapple juice in it. We
Hmm.
make the fresh pineapple the same way I described the cucumber. You cut it, you take the skin off, you cut it into chunks, you put it in the blender with water, and you strain out the fiber.
Hmm.
And it's really delicious. If you've never had fresh pineapple juice, it's much better than the stuff you get in the cans.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got my
Um,
attention with that one.
Yes, I make all kinds of crazy juices. I have to tell you, I since I learned this or since I thought up this method, I have made all kinds of crazy drinks with. Do you know what a rambutan is?
It's a weird looking fruit, I
It's
guess.
a weird tropical fruit from Indonesia, and it's
Uh-huh.
red with spikes.
Aha.
But on the inside, it tastes somewhat like a lychee. Anyway, this isn't in the book, but
I was going to say, I think I had that on Rosh Hashanah this year.
yes, right. And Rosh Hashanah it's a good drink for Rosh Hashanah because it's a new fruit.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I saw some a few months ago in the store, so I bought them. I juiced them into juice, and I made a rambutan margarita
Oh, yeah.
that is not like no drink you've tasted, and it was
Oof.
really good.
Yeah.
So any
Huh.
fruit you want. The next one, boils, uses scotch, which if you're strictly kosher is just not going to happen.
Hmm.
But there's another drink which I have made, which is actually very delicious that you can call erythromycin instead of ampicillin.
Hmm.
Um, I name these drinks. Well, penicillin is a real drink, and the first time we did boils, the first time we did the 10 plagues at home, we used penicillin for this
Hmm.
one because it cures boils. And Scott and we used scotch because we didn't have the people who are strictly kosher just didn't drink it.
Hmm.
But and Scotch drinkers liked it, but regular drinkers were like Scotch is too much for them.
Hmm.
So I made this drink called ampicillin, which still uses Scotch, but I changed some of the ingredients to make it more accessible.
Hmm.
And it's been popular with Scotch drinkers and non-Scotch drinkers alike. But
Hmm.
if you can't use, there is no kosher for Passover Scotch, and if there was, you wouldn't want to taste it.
Right.
So what I use here in this is a drink that I have made again called erythromycin because it's another another in that same family. And what you use here is you can use a vodka, and you can use a gin too, but I use a vodka. This drink has the ampicillin has cherry liqueur in it, and you use fresh cherry juice.
Hmm.
Again, same concept. You put it in the blender, you blend it, you strain it. It's really good if you've never had fresh cherry juice. I never had before I did it. There's a couple other ingredients that you can find in the book, and then you put a float of a pomegranate liqueur,
Hmm.
which there's a kosher for Passover pomegranate wine, which would probably work.
Hmm.
Or you can use a pear brandy that they're kosher for Passover that too. It's just a float to give it a kind of a
Hmm.
more exotic flavor. Anyway,
Yeah.
this drink, the cherry drink, is
Yeah.
delicious. So, if you're being strictly kosher, you want all 10 plagues, forget the scotch and just make that. For hail, a drink that I call the coconut hail tail, and it's a very sweet drink. It's coconut rum, pineapple juice, coconut, cream of coconut, and then you top it with the coconut flakes.
Hmm.
So it looks like hail.
Hmm.
At my Seder, we usually do this in mocktail form. And I
Hmm.
gotta tell you, my one of my youngest nephews, was like 2 or 3 years old,
Hmm.
he'd snarf down around 11 of these things. He was so excited that he got to drink something.
Yeah.
And it's very sweet, and he just loved it.
Yeah.
But the people loved it, the adults loved it too.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so
Did you
then
mention
locusts,
cream of coconut?
cream of coconut.
So are there, I don't know if there's kosher Passover versions or is there a workaround for that? You make
Um,
your own?
I do not know.
Okay.
The one I saw, the ones I've used always say that they're kosher, and I can't remember if they were kosher for Passover or not, and I did not research that, and I apologize.
Okay. Oh,
If
I
you
should have
can't find
asked.
it,
I should have
there
asked.
there are ways. I mean, if you look it up online, there are ways that you can make coconut, basically coconut syrup or cream of coconut at
Hmm.
home, but it's going to be a little bit complicated, kind of like bitters. You can do bitters at home too, but it's complicated. And
Hmm.
if you're making 10 drinks, you don't want that.
Yeah.
But maybe you do if it means you won't have a drink for hail.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
but I don't know. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So the next one, which was the very first one I thought of when we came up with this idea of the 10 plagues of cocktail
Hmm.
for locusts, of course, is the classic drink, the grasshopper.
Hmm.
which is again from the 20s or 30s, and um, but like the pink squirrel is going to have cream in it, so it's going to be dairy or maybe part, but I think dairy.
Mm.
Um, this is a combination. The drink is a combination of creme de menthe, creme de cocoa, and cream.
Mm.
I could not find kosher for Passover creme de menthe either, but that's another thing you can make at home.
Mm.
This one's a little more involved. It's a two-step process. You have to you have to cook the mint leaves in sugar and water before you put it in vodka in the mason jar and then let it sit for a couple of days.
Huh. Wow.
It is very minty. It's actually more minty tasting than, in my opinion, than your stuff you buy in the store, the creme de menthe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not nearly as bright a green color.
Hmm.
It's a much lighter green.
Interesting.
And again, if you can't find white cream de menthe that's kosher for Passover and have to use brown, it's not going to look green at all. But there are brown grasshoppers, so I think you can go with it.
Yeah. That's really neat about the workaround. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would look it up online to see how long you want to how long you
To
want to
leave it
cook it
in.
in the sugar, but basically, yeah, just cook the mint leaves with the sugar until it becomes kind of a mush.
Hello, dear listeners. It's your host, Rabbi Drew. I wanted to break in right now and just say, hey, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate, or watching, however you're consuming this content. And I'm always open for new ideas, both for specifically the Jewish Drinking Show, whether it's topics, whether it's guests. I'm also looking for other resources that I can provide you with in the Jewish Drinking Project more broadly. Also, I'd really like to offer you the opportunity to sponsor this work. Whether if you want to go to patreon.com/Jewish Drinking, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you have ideas for swag, also, please feel free to send them to me at drew@jewishdrinking.com. All right, thank you so much, L'chaim, and now back into the episode.
Darkness. This is a drink I call Hour Before Sunrise. It is. It has vanilla vodka, which we talked about. It has elderflower liqueur, which we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and it has fresh blackberry juice,
Mm.
which again you can't peel them, but you put them in the blender with water, and then you strain it out. You have to do straining there because the blackberry seeds make something undrinkable if you don't strain them out.
Mm.
You may even have to double strain it.
Are they like
But,
super bitter?
Not that they're bitter, but they get stuck in your teeth.
Wow.
So you definitely want to strain it, but the juice is delicious.
Mm.
And then also in this is some coconut milk. Again, if you can't find that, that's easy enough to make, or you can make coconut water with the flakes and water instead of rum.
Mm-hmm.
Which wouldn't be the same exact thing as coconut milk, but it will give you that little coconut kick.
Hmm.
And this is a favorite at my Seder, and we also do this often in the mocktail form.
Mm.
So in that case, you would use some sort of fake vodka that's kosher for Passover. And I have to admit that I have not really researched to see these faux liqueurs. They're all can be found kosher, but I haven't really looked to see if they can be found kosher for Passover. I assume they can, but I don't know for certain.
I
If
have
you're making a
literally
mocktail.
no idea either direction.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing about if you're making mocktails in general, but certainly for Passover, is that
Mhm.
like if you're getting vodka, yeah, some are a little better than others, but you basically know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
If you're getting fake vodka, non-alcoholic vodka, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Mm.
And I had to try out for each kind. I got rum, vodka, gin. I still haven't found a non-alcoholic gin that I can stomach. Tequila. I had to try several before I came up with one that said, this. I can make a drink that tastes like a drink, because they just all taste very different because they don't have any alcohol in them. So they give them different herbs and whatnot,
Hmm.
botanicals
Yeah.
that they think, like, especially for gin, which is why I can't stomach the gin. It just doesn't go with anything.
Mm.
That's in general, but I mean, they're getting better. I even saw a non-alcoholic bourbon the other day, although I didn't taste it. The Last Plague, The Slaying of the Firstborn, and I have to admit, when we first came up with the idea for the 10 plagues, we were going to skip this one because it really is a very dark plague.
Yeah.
I found a drink called Pharaoh's Lament that was perfect. It had absinthe in it, and it was perfectly named. It was perfectly, the history of it was perfect. It tasted awful. So we stopped with Pharaoh's Lament, and I found a drink called a Montego Slay. I don't know why it's called that, but Slay. So I changed the recipe because again, I didn't want it. It's a nice, sweet, bright looking drink, and that didn't feel appropriate to me for this plague. So I made something called the Deadly Montego Slay, where I use ghost pepper tequila. Now you're not going to find kosher for Passover ghost pepper tequila.
Right.
But this drink is still going to be a little spicy even without that.
But you could slip in the peppers into the bottle.
Well, you can, and that will help.
Yeah.
But the drink also has a mango hot pepper puree in it.
Ooh.
So you get it, which tastes great, but it has a nice little kick. So you don't really need the ghost pepper tequila. I'm just piling on really with that. You can make it with regular tequila if you don't have the ghost pepper. And the mango pepper, you use about a 2-to-1 ratio of mangoes to peppers, or maybe even 3-to-1, depending on how your spice tolerance is. And I don't strain it. I let, mango is not a very fibrous fruit. And if you don't strain it and you just use it as a puree, you get little red spots in it, which are kind of cool looking, and add to the whole slay aspect of it. This drink also has apricot liqueur or apricot brandy. There's a kosher for Passover apricot brandy you can get. It also has bitters, which I would just skip because I don't think it's going to be too much trouble to make for a few drops. It's probably more work if you have to be totally kosher for Passover, but it's worth it because you get 10 plagues worth of cocktails, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, in your system of not having to make full on cocktails, but like the 1-ounce shooters, I think makes it a lot more manageable, especially for a larger crowd or even a semi-large crowd, even whether it's 10 to 20 people, it makes it a lot more manageable to put together.
Well, the main reason to do it that way, if each shot gets you like an ounce or ounce and a half of drink, which is what, no more than an ounce of liquor, probably less, 2/3 of
Probably
an ounce.
less. Yeah.
You can drink all 10 and you're basically only drinking 2 drinks.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get totally wasted, but you're going to get the different flavors and feelings of the different plagues. That's way to go.
It'll definitely get you into a festive mindset.
Yeah. And believe me, at my Seder, there are some people who have more than 1 cup of each.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll happen everywhere, but yeah.
Well, if they like it, oh, this is good, let me have another one, and they just take another one.
Yeah. That's good.
And that's between them and their auto insurance carrier.
Well, if they're driving, right? So
if they're driving.
Any other thoughts about your book, or even just tips, thoughts on creating cocktails for the Seder?
I have a whole chapter in the book on if you're a novice, cocktail maker, on things you can do. Part of that goes with the fresh juice and how to make juice into everything, which we've discussed. But there's also other things that are important to know if you've never made cocktails, or if your cocktails aren't very good. There's an order that you have to put the ingredients into the shaker. There's which drinks you shake and which ones you stir. For our drinks here in the book, they're almost all drinks that have fruit or some other cream, a coconut or cream or something in them, and those drinks should always be shaken. If you're doing a drink like like Pestilence, for example, which does have a little juice, so you can shake it. But if you're making a martini, I know James Bond gets his shaken, not stirred. The whole there's a whole culture on the people who think James Bond is a wuss um, because that's not the way you should make a martini, because the ice chips and you get water in the drink and all you're getting is a water.
Right.
And, for some people that's okay. But, so for certain drinks, you don't want to shake and you just have to know which is which.
Mhm.
How to measure, if you're not used to making your own cocktails, get yourself what they call a jigger. On one side, it has 1 or 2 ounces. On the other side, half an ounce or an ounce. And you can measure it really quickly and easily. I use a pourer. You see them in bars, those little like plastic pourers, or you can get metal ones. And if you practice with that, or you know how it goes, you can actually measure out very accurately an ounce, 2 ounces, 3 ounces, however many you want, just by how long you let the liquid go through the shaker.
Wow.
And so if you want to look like you know what you're doing, or just go quicker, you can do that. Although obviously you have to actually know what you're doing, because if you pour too much or too little of your alcohol, your drink's not going to taste the same. As far as other tips for the actual creation of these 10 plagues, we talked about the lab. I get everything out the morning of the Seder and have it all ready to go. I have all the juices in the fridge that I made the day before. And so when I'm making the drink, everything's right in front of me. Things that have to be cut, I cut before people come over, and I blend before, I do everything and when they come over, I just here, pour this out.
I was going to ask, especially with all the juicing, the time allotment for that. But you're suggesting do all the juicing the day before.
And I do the juicing. It's still fresh the next day.
Okay.
Still tastes fresh anyway.
Yeah.
You could do it that morning if you're really worried about it, but I do it the day before. I try to get everything set up. It takes the juicing for all the juices in here, and there's a lot. It takes a couple hours, 2-3 hours to, especially if you've never done it before. It takes me a little less, but if you've never done it before, it's going to take you a few hours, 2 or 3 hours to do. And then I leave 2 hours before I want people to come to start making the drinks. It's a balance. You might want, it depends on how fast you think you're going to be, but you don't want the drinks to get warm after you pour them, but you can't leave them in the shaker because they'll get watered down. So there's a timing balance. It's very tricky. The first couple of years, I said an hour should be plenty. And it was, but it wasn't. So we were still pouring the drinks when the guests came, and my wife wasn't happy. So now I leave 2 hours, and the drinks are a little warmer, but the wife is a little happier. So
okay. Values. All right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Dave, so much. Before we go, is there anything you would like to promote?
Well, you already showed it, but 10 Plagues of Cocktails.
Yeah.
It's you can find, if you go to davidkedson.com or dkkedson.com, which is the name I actually put on the book, you can find a buy link for the book and some information about it. It was the top new release when it came out in both Jewish holiday cooking and alcoholic spirits on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So it's been pretty well received, and it's a fun book. It's a fun gift. I know people who bought a bunch of them to give away to their friends who are hosting seders.
Yeah, you're right. It's an intriguing gift for sure. Well, Dave, thank you so much, and l'chaim.